Britain's Prime Minister David Cameron is outspoken in his fight against extremism, but what he's been saying off the record could land him in hot water after the Daily Telegraph newspaper reported that he'd privately said that Muslim women's, quote, traditional submissiveness were a reason for radicalisation. And here's the reaction it got.
My dad buys me hijabs when I go scarf shopping, as I can't speak English.
UK Parliament has 8 Muslim women MPs. Hasn't David Cameron noticed?
I'm so traditionally submissive. I have to run all my tweets by my husband, my father-in-law, and 6 imams before posting.
Wednesday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. 6 million Jews were murdered in concentration camps during the Second World War, along with 5 million non-Jews. Yet while the world gets ready to mark the day, many Holocaust survivors in Israel struggle in poverty and loneliness. RT's Paula Sleer has been speaking to some of them.
Eva Kovalenko is nearly 80 and is caring for her sick husband Ivan. His body is riddled with old age and he cannot leave the house. They are both survivors of the Holocaust. They managed to flee Ukraine when most of their families were murdered by Nazis. Decades later, Eva and Ivan now live in Israel, but they feel far from settled.
We are still refugees like before, as we keep on running from one flat to another.
The couple gets some subsidies from the government, but more than half of the money goes to paying bills and buying medicines. They've had to move 4 times because they could not afford the rent.
I don't understand why they don't do enough for people like us who went through the Holocaust. We are not even asking for a proper flat, just a hostel where we can live our last days peacefully.
Eva and Ivan are not the only ones struggling.
As many as 67% of survivors say they're worried about their financial future, according to the Foundation for the Benefit of Holocaust Victims in Israel. And nearly half say they're lonely.
There are just under 190,000 Holocaust survivors living in Israel, and almost a quarter of them live below the poverty line.
The government used to say, look, we are not guilty of the Holocaust. It's the Germans that should pay. My answer to that was, you're certainly not guilty, but you're responsible for your own citizens. People are getting sicker. And they do get pensions, some of them from Germany, some of them from the State of Israel, but whatever they get is not sufficient.
And Colette Avital should know. When she was in government, she headed efforts to help survivors. As much as $1 billion a year is now put aside for them. But it comes after decades of neglect. But while many Holocaust survivors still feel let down by their government, some are finding solace in the broader community. Here's where volunteer students like Amit and Omer come in. They visit survivor Michael once a week, every week, through a program called Connected.
They come over and it does me good. I go back to feeling young again. It helps that I'm not just sitting in front of the TV or looking at newspaper crosswords.
On this anniversary of the Holocaust, survivors are grateful they're being remembered. Many of them wish, though, that they could rely as much on their government as on their people. Paula Sleer, RT, Tel Aviv.
Some other world news for you. In the US, 2 people have been killed and 3 injured in a shooting at a homeless camp in Seattle. Investigators have ruled out it being a random attack and say that it was targeted. Seattle's facing a homeless crisis and declared a state of emergency in November. The camp where the shooting took place has a long history of violence. Hundreds of taxi drivers in Paris have been protesting against the app-based ride-sharing service Uber. On Tuesday, police used batons and tear gas against the protesters who blocked a motorway in the French capital. 20 people were arrested. Firebrand US Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has been pelted with tomatoes during a campaign speech in Iowa. Security guards had to remove angry protesters from the event. Trump's running for the 2016 presidency and has drawn criticism for his controversial comments on immigration and a whole load of other issues as well. But so important. I'll update you again in just over half an hour. Next, though, on RT International, Afshin Rattansi's going underground. But if you're watching us in Britain and Ireland, we take a look at how communities are being increasingly divided by walls and fences built between nations.